Rick Backus, an elder here at EBC. As you know, a good portion of this building expansion project is to accommodate youth education, whether through Hope Christian Academy or Awana or other classes and programs for the youth of various ages in our church and in our community. If you've been around the building on Wednesday nights, you know how congested it is, and you know how badly we need the room. Youth programs are absolutely essential for a growing church, especially as we work to serve the influx of new families into the Dickinson area. When Darlene and I moved to Dickinson about 10 years ago, our kids were already in their late teens, so they didn't have an opportunity to attend Hope. And so I had very little knowledge of how it operates. Frankly, I'd probably assume that it was like many other Christian church schools that I've been around, where the curriculum seems to differ very little from secular schools. But I've had some exposure to Hope recently, and I was very impressed. The main thing I noticed is how a Christian worldview is communicated to the kids. If you were around a few years ago when we went through the Focus on the Family Truth Project, you know exactly what I mean by worldview and how important it is. Chuck Colson was one of the best sources on this subject. He said, "Biblical worldview is that God has spoken us into existence, that He is a God of all creation, that all truth is God's truth, and that as a church we must see the entire world through God's eyes. Then we can begin to engage our secular counterparts with good sound arguments as to why we believe what we believe." As Pastor Tim would say, now don't miss that last part, which was, then we can begin to engage our secular counterparts. I heard a political commentator say recently that as things get tougher for Christians, they will withdraw into their own groups and become shrinking islands in a sea of secularism. Some Christians might see that sending their kids to Christian school is doing just that, a form of withdrawing from the world. But I strongly disagree. I would echo Chuck Colson. Let's properly equip our kids in every way, and let's jealously guard their view of the world they live in. Nationally, in public schools, it seems that even the basic disciplines are being undermined. History is distorted, science is corrupted, and math is becoming nearly incomprehensible. Facts and empty knowledge don't do a lot of good without a proper understanding of the world. If you don't see history as his story, what do you really have? Or if you're brainwashed by science teachers who ignore the flood of Noah, in the words of the Apostle Peter, quote, "They deliberately overlooked the fact that the earth was formed out of water and through water by the word of God, and that by means of these the world that then existed was deluged with water and perished." Unquote. If your teacher ignores the cataclysm that largely formed the world around us, then what kind of a science education do you really have? And math, don't even get me started on math. The pastor just before Tim was Pastor Rick Stevens. He would often quote a verse, and I believe it was 1 Peter 1:18, which says that we have been redeemed from the empty way of life which was handed down from our forefathers. I believe that as a generation we're in danger of handing down an empty way of life to the next generation. I don't want to be one of those forefathers. That empty way of life saturates our culture and our country. We need to proactively do everything God would have us to do to guide our children and grandchildren towards the abundant life Christ offers us. Invest in a Christian worldview. Prayerfully consider sending your kids to Hope, or encourage others to send their kids. And last but certainly not least, please give to the building expansion project as the Lord would lead you. Do everything God would have you to do to deliver a rich, full, biblical worldview to the next generation.